Thank you very much, Ambassador Volker, and Prime Minister. Thank you so much for hosting us in this beautiful country and in these particularly interesting, creative hotels either side of us. As the video showed, and as Ambassador Volker put so eloquently, John McCain was a great friend of Georgia, probably the greatest friend in America of Georgia. 10 years ago, he was the presidential nominee when you had a fifth of your country occupied. It remains occupied. The West didn't actually respond to then candidate McCain's call for Georgia to be helped in this situation. 10 years later, you're still an applicant for NATO membership. My question to you is, with the Trump administration in place, what chances do you give that your application for NATO membership will ever be accepted?
Good morning, Edward. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a privilege for me to be a speaker on this wonderful event. And today is September the 11th. And 17 years ago, when this tragedy has happened, it united the freedom-loving people all around the world to fight against terrorism. And it's very symbolic that we have been gathered now in Tbilisi, Georgia, on this wonderful conference, which is named after a great person, a great American, a wholehearted supporter of our independence and freedom all around the world. Senator John McCain has been next to our nation in the toughest period in our recent history. And of course, my nation and Georgian people will never forget this. Well, indeed, we are on our path to NATO, and this path is full of challenges. But I would say that we are pretty successful on this path. Everybody understands that it is full of challenges, but the NATO says that they have the open door policy, and that Georgia has all the practical tools to become a full member of NATO. Therefore, of course, our expectations are very optimistic. Of course, we do understand that this decision will be affected by the geopolitical situation, but we are absolutely optimistic, and we are trying our best. And I think that also the recent NATO summit showed that the commitment to the values of NATO is really of the highest importance. And you know that Georgia is among the nations who is spending more than 2% of our GDP, you know, and it's really a high burden for our small economy. But anyway, we are trying our best, and I think that more and more members in NATO have this feeling that Georgia deserves to become a full member. And in Brussels, once again, it was stated that eventually Georgia will become a member of NATO.
So you've got troops in Afghanistan, you've got troops elsewhere, you spend more than 2% of GDP. You are, in the region, by far the best applicant for both NATO and European Union membership. You're very young in the, well, you're young, but you're also young in the job. A couple of months, right?
Correct.
Maybe 10 weeks. Yeah. And already you've had Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, visit. I believe her first visit here as Chancellor.
Official, yes.
And you stood side by side with them. she said some nice things, but not particularly strong things. In terms of your desire to join the EU and NATO, did she give you private reassurances that this is something that Germany is going to really get behind now?
Well, I'm very direct that, I mean, Germany has a full support over our aspirations, you know, to both join EU and NATO. But of course, as I have mentioned, you know, it also depends on the geopolitical situation, on geopolitical status quo. So the idea is that we should prepare Georgia, we should prepare our democratic institutions that once the decision is matured, that Georgia is fully ready to become the full member of both European Union and NATO. And, you know, we are very result-oriented government, but at the same time, we shouldn't forget that the process of transformation is also of vital importance, okay? Transformation to make Georgia a true European democracy. And transformation of our economy as well, because you know that one of the major challenges that we have in Georgia is still the poverty. We could reduce this figure significantly, but it's still very high. Around 20% of our population lives in poverty. So therefore, we have some benchmarks in our policy, which has a direct relationship with our foreign aspirations. So we are very optimistic that the Western countries and our partners, they see with their own eyes that Georgia is trying its best, and moreover, Georgia has become an outlier in this region, and everybody understands that. So it's a big responsibility not only for us, but also for our partner countries. And it's more than geopolitics. I'm always saying that. I mean, our choice, it's a civilizational choice. It's a value-driven choice, okay, to become the member of European and Western family, because Georgia is an organic part of European civilization. Our past has been European, our outlook is European, our culture is European, our values are European, our commitment to build European institutions are truly European, and we are trying to build a truly European democracy in Georgia. So that beyond geopolitics. So that is always my argument, you know, when some analysts are, you know, asking us, I mean, that is it your geopolitical decision or something like that? No, it's not a geopolitical decision of my generation or generation of my parents that we suddenly decided to become a part of NATO and European Union. No, we have organically always been part of this civilization. So we deserve to be the part of this family.
So I want to get onto Russia in a minute and that fifth of Georgia that is occupied by Russia. But just sticking with European democracy, your aspiration to be accepted as a full European democracy, that doesn't mean European democracy what it used to mean these days, with people like Viktor Orban, with what's happening in Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, with the man who is now president of the United States. European democracy doesn't look quite what it looked like a few years ago. Has that dimmed your aspiration?
Well, for us, European democracy is about engagement. You know, we are a small country, and we should consolidate the efforts of everybody, of government, of opposition, of civil society, of media. You know, each of us has our own, you know, role in supporting our young democracy, and it's all about engagement. It's all about values. So I think that it's a kind of a little bit over-evaluation when somebody is saying that, I mean, that Europe is is becoming different. Yes, I mean, it's a political process, and there are some changes, but the values are still on the table. Okay, and it is as I have mentioned, these are the values which created this civilization. Okay, so we are absolutely committed to it, and we are absolutely optimistic about a very bright future of European family.
So it's been 10 years now since South Ossetia and Abkhazia were occupied, a fifth of your country under Russian occupation. What are the circumstances in which you will get that territory back?
Well, this is the biggest and most painful challenge that we have currently in Georgia. 20% of our territory is still occupied by Russia. And what we see on these territories is really very painful. It's just humanitarian catastrophe. Let me remind you that the population in Tkhinvali region before the war was around 120,000 people. Now it's 20,000, and out of that, 7,000 are Russian troops. In Abkhazia, before war, the population was 550,000. Now it's no more than 120,000. Okay, so and indeed, it's a very painful challenge, and we are trying to address this humanitarian catastrophe. We have a very important new initiative, a step to a better future. The idea of this initiative is to provide proper access to healthcare and to education to the people who are living on these occupied territories, to give them a chance to have some commercial activities to feed their families. But of course, Russia is trying its best to oppose our peaceful initiatives. The best answer to this challenge is to build a strong European democracy in Georgia, and we are very successful on this path. Once again, let me repeat myself that we don't have illusions. This path is full of challenges and will be full of challenges. But we are very firm on this position, and we believe, and personally I'm absolutely sure, that this is the only precondition for us to have a peaceful resolution of this conflict. And the precondition is to build a strong European democracy in Georgia and to create an economic environment in which everybody will have a chance to realize its potential. Okay? These are the two main preconditions for us to be successful, to have a peaceful resolutions of these conflicts. And moreover, you know, we have some achievements on this path because we believe that, in fact, there are no ethnic conflicts on Georgian territories. This is Russian propaganda which is trying to promote this idea, you know, because people-to-people relationships are becoming better and better. So, in fact, we have a political conflict, you know, with Russia, and as long as Georgia is successful in building its democracy, in building the competitive economy in Georgia, will be successful to have a peaceful resolution of these conflicts. But of course, we will need the assistance of our partner countries. And in this respect, of course, we are very positive when there are meetings on a high political level of our friends with Russia, you know, because there is no alternative to dialogue, and the conflicts in Georgia is in the agenda, yes, on these negotiations, and it's also in the best interest of United States and Europe, you know, to advance and to persuade Russia that this part of world needs peace, this part of world needs prosperity. If you look at the experience of Norway, for example, when Norway was joining the NATO, of course, Soviet Union was absolutely unhappy about it. But this decision made Scandinavia region one of the most economically developed parts in the world. Yes, so it is of course we believe that it is in the interest of Russia as well to have a peaceful and prosperous Caucasia as a neighbor. But we don't have illusions. There will be a lot of challenges, and we need engagement. We need engagement of government, of opposition, of civic society, media, of our partner countries, of our friends, to try to overcome these challenges and obstacles together.
Realistically speaking, is it possible to imagine a settlement with Russia where Georgia is restored whole whilst Vladimir Putin is in charge of Russia?
Well, we have our own strategy, and we have our own vision, we have our own values. And our strategic partners had their vision about Georgia, And we are united by values, So it's going to be a very complicated process. It's going to be a very complicated process, and I don't have personal illusion, But we know also that, and if you look at the history, Russia was always, not always, but in many times they were trying to go against the progress, and against the international trends, We are living in a 21st century, in a global world, in a global economy, And Russia, with its policy, is going against, this world trends, and the progress generally. And of course, I believe that in a foreseeable future, this will happen. This will definitely happen because there is no other alternative, even for Russia. Everybody needs engagement. And let me finish this sentence. And I think that also now our Western partners, they have a clear picture about the goals of Russia, And this is a trend, all across in the neighborhood of Russia, in Georgia, with these conflicts, in Moldova, in Ukraine, the conflict in Karabakh, it's a pattern, yes. So it is a tactic of Russia. So, and I think that the Western society, will be more consolidated, and we will get more support, to overcome this challenge together. Georgia, we should also take into consideration the geographical location of Georgia. We are in this triangle, Turkey, Russia, Iran, and we are at the crossroads of civilizations. So, and this experience has made Georgia and our nation as a pretty resilient nation, I would say. So, and I think that the combination of these two, the consolidation of the Western society plus the resilience of our nation, and I would also add the engagement of every stakeholder in Georgia to achieve this goal, will be enough, for us to overcome this problem together and to find the peaceful resolutions. For us, people-to-people relationship is main, Because if you have a good people-to-people relationship, you can always construct and try to find some political resolution of the conflicts, you know. And indeed, the people-to-people relationship are good, you know. So this means that we have a good foundation to find a political resolution of these conflicts, but of course it needs time, and it needs a political willingness. And it needs a very efficient strategy from our Western friends and engagement of entire society. So we are absolutely sure, but we don't have illusion that this will happen overnight. You know, that in the foreseeable future, this will definitely happen.
So you talk about the collective engagement of the West, Western values. Forgive me for asking this again, but President Trump was recently asked about Montenegro, and he said that basically Americans wouldn't come and fight for Montenegro. Montenegro could start World War III before you know it. Is it realistic to expect the Trump administration to do anything to advance your goals on these questions?
Well, the United States has been supporting us since our independence, you know, in 1991. And each administration, you know, push our relationship to another level. And in the last 2 years with the Trump administration, I think that we pushed this relationship to the all high level, you know, all-time high level. So it's really very important, you know, especially in the fields of security. So it is in the best interest of United States of America. It is a national interest of America to have a strong partner in this part of the world. So we are absolutely sure that this very result-oriented cooperation will continue with United States of America, but we have gaps, you know, in other fields, like economy, for example. You know, unfortunately, still the cooperation in economic field with United States of America is not on high level. So we would like to see more American companies in Georgia, because this low level of economic cooperation is not good. Yeah, it's not good because we need involvement in all other sectors, you know. And cooperation in economy, I think, is really very important. So we are trying to make Georgia a regional hub for trade, for business, for tourism. And from my private sector experience, I know that it's actually very hard to develop the international business if you don't have a direct flight, for example, you know, and we are very intensively working on solving this issue. So we are looking for a more comprehensive relationship with the United States of America. We have excellent political relationship. We have excellent cooperation in security, but we need also a good level of cooperation in economy. So from 1st of January, we are launching a new reform which will provide a very big tax incentive to the American and international companies to do the business in Georgia. You know that we are serving the 8 landlocked countries in Eurasian continent. So indeed, it will be kind of a very good opportunity for American companies to start the business in Georgia. So we are trying to deepen our relationship with United States of America in other fields as well. And I think that economic cooperation can become another very important cornerstone in the strategic relationship between Georgia and the United States of America.
You've spoken very emphatically about the need to develop a stronger civil society and democracy in Georgia. Just this morning we had a round table with prominent Georgian journalists, And they were expressing great concern, alarm even, about the spread of fake news in Georgia and the polarization in the media climate and foreign influence in Georgia. How big a concern is that? How big a problem is fake news? And I guess particularly Russian inspired and funded fake news in Georgia?
Well, of course, Russian propaganda, is an issue and is a challenge. And it's not the news that, Russia is trying its best to affect the public opinion, especially about our aspirations to become a member of European Union and NATO. But they have not been successful in this, and they will never be, because, as I have mentioned, it is not a political decision for us to become a part of EU. It's a value-based decision. But of course, we have to be very careful, and that's why we are working very closely with our friends, to counterfight with Russian propaganda. And I think that the best answer, to such challenges is again in economic policy. We have to reduce the poverty. We have to eliminate the poverty. This would be the best answer to such challenges, because unfortunately the economic situation and the poverty is sometimes a fertile background for nationalism, for xenophobia. Okay, and of course Russian propaganda is trying, to target this disadvantage that we have and this weakness that we have in our economy. So eliminating the poverty, I think, is the best answer to this challenge, and generally increasing the level of our economic development. So another very important reform which we are conducting is in a field of education, because unfortunately education has become a capacity constraint for our economy, and we have to acknowledge this. So we are now totally focused on human capital building process in Georgia. We are totally focused on implementing the reform in education sector, which will help us to increase the human capital index in Georgia, and therefore which will help us to eliminate the poverty in Georgia and make Georgia economy more competitive. So I think that again the answer to these political challenges, what you have just mentioned, is in the field of economy. Okay, both in terms of in politics and in economy as well. So. But we are absolutely sure that Russian propaganda will never achieve its goals. They are trying their best, but if you look at the elections, at the recent results in Georgia, the so-called pro-Russian parties, I mean, cannot get more than 4 or 5%. So the absolute majority of Georgian society has a full commitment to our aspirations, to our goals to become the part of European Union and NATO.
In terms of Georgian democracy and elections, I have to ask you about the fact that the founder and leader of your party, Georgia Dream Party, is a very, very rich man, Mr. Ishvanvili, and he's got, I think, assets that account for about 1/3 of your GDP. This is kind of an oligarchic situation, isn't it? Doesn't that cast of Georgian democracy?
Bidzina Ivanishvili is the founder of Georgian Dream and the chairman of the ruling party. And we won the election in 2012. And the best answer what this big change has brought for our country is I would say, the international rankings, okay? How we improved our positions in all directions, in terms of media pluralism, in terms of human rights, in terms of protection, the private sector assets, in terms of making the transparency higher, much higher, I would say. Let me remind you that in terms of, for example, the budget transparency, we are in the top 5 countries in the world. You know, in terms of, according to many studies, Georgia is in the same league as the countries like Netherlands, Sweden, United Kingdom. So these are very concrete achievements. So we are on the right way towards democratic transformation and towards creating a truly European democracy in Georgia. Moreover, this is a political philosophy of Georgian dream to make the European democracy and parliamentary democracy in Georgia. So that was a big change, you know, what we have made. That I would say is really historical.
And I think that's widely accepted. But if I could ask you a blunt question, are you accountable to Mr. Ivanishvili, or who is your boss?
I'm accountable for the people who voted and for Georgian dream and to Georgian society generally. So, and that's very clear. All the rest are, you know, just the political speculations. And once again, I think that the best answer, you know, to this question are the real statistics and the real figures, how we have advanced in all international rankings. So, and I think that that's not also in the best interest for our democracy to try always to have this comparison, you know, what was before 2012 and what is now. But indeed, you know, there's a big progress and big achievement. But we should look to the future, okay? We should look for engagement. We should try to consolidate our efforts of government, opposition, civil society, of all our friends to overcome the challenges. This path is full of challenges. We don't have illusion. And there is no alternative solution except the consolidation of our efforts and engagement of all stakeholders, I would say. So we are on the right path. Georgia has become an outlier in this region. But we have challenges, okay? We need to reduce and eliminate the poverty. And once we achieve this goal, our chances will become much, much higher. Why? Because our economy and our political life will become much more sustainable. You know, Russia is trying its best. Everybody understands it, you know, but they won't be able to achieve their goals in Georgia due to very specific reasons I have mentioned. And it's not only about the ruling party or political establishment, you know. It's about very, very basic values. So, but of course, this does not mean that we should not be proactive. We should be proactive, and we are proactive. Okay. So, let me put this way: we have a huge achievements in democracy building, and we need the huge achievements in improving the economic life of our society. and of our citizens. And the combination of these two will make Georgia a full member of NATO and European Union. We are absolutely sure about it.
Let me wrap up, because I think we've only got 2 or 3 minutes left, with a larger question about Georgia's position in the world. You mentioned that Georgia is at and has aspirations to be at the crossroads of civilization. We haven't mentioned China yet in this conversation. China is clearly building a lot of infrastructure to link East Asia with Europe, to create Eurasia. You're logistically right there as a hub. China is also a potential counterbalance to Russia in a realistic world where, you know, Russia doesn't suddenly become best friends with you. Is China and the Belt Road Initiative in particular a card that you are playing and should be playing more and more in the years ahead?
You know that we have signed a free trade agreement with China, and China, of course, will become more active in economic life of the countries who are located along the so-called modern Silk Road. And as I have mentioned, Georgia is a gateway for many landlocked countries in the Eurasian continent: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, 8 landlocked countries. So, of course, Georgia has its role in these infrastructure projects, and China will become more and more active in economic life of these countries. But for us, as I have mentioned, our aspiration to become part of European Union affects also our economic strategy. That's why we do believe that European market should be the main for us. And let me remind you that the main trade partner for Georgia is European Union, and we have to increase our exposure over European market, and that's our strategy.
And they're buying a lot more Georgian wine, I believe, in China.
Yes, and we are very happy about it.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for your time and for answering my questions.
Thank you. Thank you.